Today was pretty bad, wasn't it? Really sucked for you. You were so disappointed. The betrayal of one of your closest long-term friends, huh?
This seems like mental illness to me. Like, this seems like some kind of pathology. Like, very concerning behavior. That empanada, by the way, I feel like he's been shitting on Hassan recently. He thinks Hassan is too soft on Israel. There's like layers to it, you know? Like there's levels to this shit. Ethan responded to iDubbbz. He reacted to the entire content cop over the span of like 6.5, 7 hours or something crazy. But he did this official response yesterday.
A few days ago, my good friend Ian, also known as iDubbbz, released a content cop about me. His video's over an hour long and it's full of a lot of accusations. We watched the entire video, every frame of it, responded to every accusation on the podcast, and a really long episode. We watched the whole thing, so if you're interested in a more thorough response to everything, I would recommend watching this episode. The video that I'm making today, however, I don't need an hour for, because there's really just one central point that I want to make here. My good friend Ian, in his hour-long takedown, did not mention one time Child Protective Services.
He honestly didn't even, like, I could be remembering it wrong. You guys tell me, but I feel like he didn't even mention, and he didn't get into specifics at all about any harassment that has been thrown at Ethan and Gila from any of these creators' communities. Like, he just didn't talk about it at all. iDubbbz.
Not one time. In the entire video, he never says CPS, no mention.
In fact, my recollection of iDubbbz mentioning harassment was that it was done in passing. And the only thing he said was something to the effect of like, and yeah, harassment is bad. And that was it. He just moved on without getting into detail.
Mention, no explanation, no overview, nothing. Zero mentions of CPS. A few weeks ago, Child Protective Services showed up to our house at 6 a.m. to interrogate us about an anonymous tip they got that our kids were crawling around and eating dog shit at catching diseases. Ian spends the majority of his video characterizing me like a raving lunatic who's lashing out at everyone around me with zero provocation.
Maybe if Ethan's able to get some help, maybe if he stops harassing other creators, maybe if he does these things, eventually he'll find peace and we can like rekindle our friendship. And I feel like I am speaking up for a lot of people who have problems with you and a lot of people who have been on the receiving end of your harassment.
What he doesn't say is the majority of these clips he's using are taken from this episode. Now, does he ever show the title of this episode?
West Elm Caleb, what's up, buddy? Stoutsy, thank you so much for 21 months. Appreciate it.
No, he does not ever show the title of this episode. Snark called Child Protective Services on us. Not only does he not show the title, he doesn't explain why I'm upset, who I'm mad at, why I'm mad at them. Zero context. I am just an anonymous screaming lunatic.
It's been pleasant hanging out with you. I've enjoyed your content over the years. And as of late, it's gotten really shitty.
Yeah, so go f yourself.
I agree.
Who else? Who else do we want to burn today?
Who else do we want to burn today? You're making it so obvious that this is your emotional dumping ground. It's horrible. This is not what podcasts are. There was a way to approach this to say like, yeah.
Wait, this was the episode that they did after the CPS call? Did iDubbbz know that context? Because it seems pretty obvious why they would be upset in that moment.
Yeah, we feel hurt by you guys not saying something. You've decided to do the extra thing and attack.
In this episode, the same day that CPS came to my home.
Wow, really? How did iDubbbz not know that? He had to have known that. And if he did know that, that's crazy. That he wouldn't be able to empathize or understand why they would be particularly heated on that day of all days. And he's like, wow, guys, really? You're talking about how you want to burn people? That's wild. I didn't know that.
I was understandably irate. This was a provocation that I had not experienced. It went into my real world, was affecting my children and my life in a way that I found extremely disturbing and an escalation that I found very unacceptable. Now, why am I mad at Ian for this? Well, let's start here. Denims is someone he's accusing me of in his video of harassing.
Yeah.
Let's see what Denim said about my children 3 days before
Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's bad. If you haven't seen these clips, it's not great.
CPS was called.
He lets his dogs shit all over his mansion, and he just leaves the shit on the floor, something that is probably related to the fact that his former housekeeper is suing him for a number of different reasons. So I would assume he doesn't actually have a housekeeper anymore, or perhaps he lost his extra housekeeper. So now the house is just like covered in dog shit. And he has kids, and his kids like crawl into the dog shit, and God forbid, I don't know what they do with it. I don't know if they eat it, or if it's just from like contact with it with their hands or something. But they contracted a parasite that I had previously never heard of in my life called Giardia from the dog shit that is all over his house.
Dude, how is it that like maybe once a week I look into what Ethan Klein's been up to, and every time I manage to find more and more terrible shit. This is where
I don't care how much you dislike someone. Going off of assumptions like that with no basis in kind of evidence is a sign of brain rot. Like, I don't care if I really dislike someone. I'm not going to jump to a conclusion that somebody that I don't like is letting their kids wade around in literal dog feces unless I see some pretty compelling evidence. That does not include a bad empanada video. That guy is completely insane. He's one of the most insane voices in politics on the internet. He's like legitimately insane. That guy is crazy. That guy is crazy.
where Ethan tells a story about his family getting Giardia.
We already have mold Mondays. Now we have shit Saturdays.
Also, this is not a joking matter, by the way. It can be very severe and deadly to small children. I mean, much like many other illnesses, it's very, very, very dangerous when infants get the same sicknesses that adults get. There are lots of things that you can get as an adult. You're totally fine. You'll be A-okay. No problem. A child, a small infant that has no immune system, shouldn't be catching anything.
No wonder his house is covered in dog shit, and his neglected children raised by nannies have contracted parasites previously unknown to science from the feces.
His children raised by nannies? That's like another thing too that he just adds to it, where it's like, it's so deranged. It's so, like, I don't care how much you dislike someone. You should never jump to these kind of conclusions based on nothing, based on absolutely nothing. And throwing little jabs at Ethan and Gila for like claiming that they don't raise their own children, their nanny raised children. It's all so ridiculous.
I wonder why he skipped over all of this, because everything that he said, everything that I said in this story, which by the way was apparently compiled by his crew, playing.
No wonder this motherfucker's always sick. Yeah. Yeah, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense now. It makes sense why he doesn't care about Palestinian children when he is neglecting his own.
Oh my God, dude. They really are like the other side of the MAGA coin. They're really not that. Like, the only difference between MAGA and these people are the specific ideology. But in terms of how their brains operate, in terms of how they see the world, in terms of how quickly they jump to certain conclusions based on nothing, the extent to which they will relentlessly go after someone if they feel like there's even just a tiny little like divergence from the established orthodoxy, like the way that they go after people like a pack of rabid wolves. He's saying that Ethan doesn't care about Palestinian kids, which is just a crazy thing to say. Like, I've seen so many clips of him talking about Palestinian kids. I've seen so, like, dozens, like literally dozens of clips. I've never seen a single clip of him being cavalier or dismissive or in denial of the suffering of like Palestinian kids. I've never seen a single clip to demonstrate this. And they say it so casually, like, oh yeah, the reason he doesn't care about Palestinian kids is because he doesn't care about his own kids, is the crux of what she's saying, which is unbelievable. I mean, these people are, you know, they call us blue MAGA, like the lefties and the tankies and the progressives call people like me blue MAGA, but they traffic in the same kind of rhetoric and they do the same kind of behavior as MAGA. Like, they're blue MAGA as far as I'm concerned. Like, are you kidding me?
How is this happening? How is it happening? How is this happening? Yeah, I mean, I don't even make fun of people's weight. I've never made fun of people's weight. I do make fun of people's posture. If you're making an active decision that like you don't give a f about your health or your posture or your dog shitting all over the house to the point where your kids are getting Giardia, that's the image of someone who is not well. Wait, what?
Oh my God.
Wait, what, Dems? Wait, what?
Oh my
You guys
god.
didn't know about this? Yeah. Meth Zempic diet. Oh god.
Even after
Dude, come on. It looked like it was literally less than a minute later. Less than a minute after saying she doesn't make weight jokes. She laughed at a weight joke. It's like, just go all in. You know what I mean? Just like if you're going to commit to a joke about somebody's appearance or their weight or whatever, just commit to it. You don't need to do this whole like, oh, I don't do those kinds of jokes. And then less than a minute later, do one of those kind of jokes.
CPS was called, Denham's attempted to justify it by claiming that it's okay because children can't be traumatized.
I want you to.
I've seen a lot of Denham's clips in my day, and this is by far one of the. I feel like this is by far the stupidest thing I've ever heard her say. This part coming up right here, it's crazy.
Create any bad memory here for them. Like, they are 5 and 3. They don't understand this shit. So I told him,
Create any bad memory for them. You're not forming memories at 3 years old, and it's very rare that you're forming memories at 5 years old.
What is her background, by the way? I thought I heard something about her having some kind of a background in psychology, which, if that's true, and I don't know if that's true, but if that's true, and she doesn't know that you're forming core memories, not just memories. You're forming memories that will inform the way that you see yourself in the world for the rest of your life. You're creating those memories at like 2 and 3. Those years are so formative. They're so important in the development of a human being.
Yes, you are. No, you're not. When we're talking about being able to remember, being able to recall memories, it's like 4 is the cutoff. But even if you are forming any memories at 4, you're not going to be able to remember them past like 15.
I don't even know where she got this. Like, is it her MO normally to just make stuff up on the fly? Or is she projecting from her own experience? The thing about this clip that I find the most interesting is she says it so confidently. She says it so confidently. She's like, oh yeah, no, you know, the cutoff is 4. She said it so confidently.
You have maybe 1 or 2 memories.
If you're wondering who the guy is she's watching, his name is Bad Empanada. And as far as harassment campaigns go, you'd think that Ian, as someone who cares so deeply about it, would be talking about him and not me. Here's a small taste.
I'd like to pay tribute to Ethan Klein and the new Twitch TOS that declares Zionism. Zion is the slur. I'd like to pay tribute to him by playing the first in Al-Aqsa video game where you kill Zionist soldiers as a Palestinian resistance fighter. Anyways, are these Israelis? They're just standing there? I mean, is the Israeli army a bunch of Ethan Kleins? Like, they're all on a fucking Ozempic binge? They don't understand what's going on around them? They haven't noticed me? Where do they keep the secretaries? In here? I'm hunting for secretaries right now. Secretary got...
Here's Bad Empanada once again, who posted a story saying, I'm the one who called CPS on Ethan Klein. I want CPS to...
The Hasan, sort of like the Hasan Denham's Frogan, like that whole side of Twitch, they are fully convinced that Hila was like Mossad, like she was like Israeli special forces. She told a story one time of like she was, you know, she served in IDF like everybody does in Israel. It's mandatory conscription. And she told a story about how she, you know, she worked in sort of like an administrative capacity, and she had asked some of her friends if she could come along on a raid, and because she wanted to know what that experience was like. She didn't have a weapon, no gun, nothing. She got out of the truck one time, and like that was like she didn't participate in any kind of the other thing too is like we have no idea what the nature of the raid was. Like, I think when people like Bad Empanada and Denham's and like that whole audience, when they hear about something like this, they just assume that IDF was kicking down the doors of just random houses and kidnapping Palestinian people at will. But now they're all convinced that she like personally, you know, wielded a weapon and like killed 3 Palestinians or whatever. Like, they think the story is so much bigger than it actually was. when in reality, it was just like a young person, you know, like I imagine me at like 18 years old. And if I was forced to serve in the army at 18 years old and I was doing administrative work in Iraq, like I could see myself at 18 years old, like asking buddies like, hey, take me with you on this one, you know, as if that's some kind of moral, like some sign that she committed war crimes or did something unforgivable or unspeakable or what, like the fiction that they construct about her service is just yet another indicator of how completely detached from reality these people are.
Take his kids away because they are seriously in danger.
Today was pretty bad, wasn't it? Really sucked for you. You were so disappointed. The betrayal of one of your closest long-term friends, huh? TikTok, though, Ethan. TikTok, because this was just...
I mean, this is... I don't know what this is. This seems like mental illness to me. Like, this seems like some kind of pathology. Like, I feel like this is weird. Like, this is just very concerning behavior. Like, it's the kind of behavior where if I was Ethan, I would be genuinely concerned that this guy was going to show up at my house with a gun or something like that.
a taste. This was just a small part of what we have organized for you. It's only gonna get worse. It's only gonna get worse, Mr. Klein. Every day, sit there just waiting in misery, in fear of what we have in store for you. Tick-tock goes the clock.
Maybe if he stops her.
That empanada, by the way, like, I feel like he's been shitting on Hassan recently. He thinks Hassan is too soft on Israel. There's like layers to it, you know? Like there's levels to this shit. It's like on one level you have AOC, and on another level you have Hassan, who likes AOC, but complains that AOC is not radical enough. And then there's another level where you have like Bad Empanada, who thinks that Hassan is not radical enough. And it's just, there's levels all the way down. And these people have no idea how to form a coalition and actually work together and be effective and have political power. Just constantly fight with each other.
Harassing other creators.
He lets his dogs shit all over his mansion, and he just leaves the shit on the floor.
Maybe if he does these things, eventually he'll find peace.
The house is just like covered in dog shit. And he has kids, and his kids like crawl into the dog shit.
And I feel like I am speaking up for a lot of people who have problems with you.
I don't know what they do with it. I don't know if they eat it or if it's just from like contact with it with their hands or something.
I was particularly angry during this episode entitled Snark Called CPS on Us.
So there's just no way that iDubbbz didn't know that that was the context of their anger for this particular, which is just f***ing... There's something about this movement. There's something about like this specific niche online leftist movement that just jumbles people's brains, turns it into mush, and strips people of their ability to critically think about shit. There's something about it that just makes people crazy. BR with $10, life is really a flat circle. I listened to your vids in a high school tech class in the 2000s, 12 years in the army, college, now 32 with a kid. Working from home and watching you right now. Love your change and content, bro. Thank you so much, brother. That's such a nice thing to say. I get really blown away by that stuff. We were talking about it with some friends over the weekend, talking about this stuff and how people like reach out to me with messages like these. And it's really cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate you being a part of my life. I forgot what I was talking about, to be honest with you.
Because I hold denims to be one of the primary reasons, in my opinion, why CPS was called. Another one of their friends, Froggy Tonic, had been spreading the same malicious rumor about me on Twitter for days before CPS was called as well.
I used to work with this video editor named Froggy Tonic. I discovered him because he was in the circles online that I was in. There would be an occasional Froggy tweet where I'd be like, I agree with that, you know? Like, I'm not gonna endorse it, I'm not gonna retweet it or like it, but fair enough. Now, my former editor of a year and a half ago did say some truly mean shit. He called Hila the C word. He said they're trying to kill their dog with cheddar cheese and a bunch of other shit, I'm sure.
Now let me show you the tweets that Ian conveniently omitted. Me when my 3 kids ask me why they haven't seen me in the past 4 months. I was in my basement. How can you shun a fallen fan when they worry about their 3 kids when they can't be bothered to protect their dogs? Ethan was neglectful with his dogs. He's already been neglectful with his kids, and he will continue to be. As a child of a neglectful, bipolar, narcissistic dad, that's precisely why I worry about Ethan's kids. I explained it on the podcast, but the truth of the matter is, it's all a lie. It's all wrong. The man is talking about my children. He's painting me as a terrible parent, a neglectful parent, and saying that he's, whose claim to fame as being iDubbbz's friend and former editor, is spreading malicious, damaging rumors about me that led to the CPS being called. Which, by the way, Ian does not explain one time. He did not mention why I'm angry at Froggy Tonic. He did not mention why I'm angry at Denims. He did not mention the name of the episode. He did not mention what the episode was about. He actually has a perfect opportunity to explain the CPS call, but watch what he does here instead.
Now, my former editor of a year and a half ago did say some truly mean shit. He called Hila the C word. He said they're trying to kill their dog with cheddar cheese and a bunch of other shit.
What other shit, Ian? Other shit is doing a lot of heavy lifting, man. Now, why does this matter? Because Anissa was yucking it up with these guys during the period in which they were spreading this rumor and when the CPS call was made. The CPS call is central to understanding this story. You cannot tell this story without that context, and to try to tell this story without including that detail, it would be the most bad faith, cruel, gaslighting hit piece of all time. Unfortunately, that's exactly what he did. He convinced his audience that the reason that I'm mad, that I'm lashing out, simply because I'm a raving lunatic. I am crashing out. I'm just crazy and harassing his friends for no reason. And by the way, to my good friend Ian of 8 years, I really appreciate you weaponizing my mental health against me.
To make Ethan crash out. He's having a parasocial weird crash out. People can have crash out moments. Maybe if Ethan's able to get some help.
Someone who I've confided in over the years with my struggles with it, who understands what I've been through.
That is especially gross. If somebody is vulnerable enough with you to open up about some kind of a mental health crisis, some kind of an emotional crisis, some kind of something that maybe they would talk with their therapist about, when they get really vulnerable in that way, that is a high level of trust. You know, you don't just tell everybody and anybody about deep, personal, really challenging struggles that you have unless you really trust that person with that information. And trusting that person with the information is more than trusting that they're not going to tell other people about that information. Trusting people with that information and that insight into you also means that you trust them not to use it in the future in the context of some unrelated conflict. That's a big no-no. Like anybody who has like a partner knows what I'm talking about. Anybody who has like a boyfriend, girlfriend, and then they open up to you about something that they're really struggling with. You know that it would be really wrong if, 3 months from now or 4 months from now or 2 years from now, you guys get in some kind of a fight. There's some kind of a conflict. And then you reference the thing that they told you in confidence about something totally unrelated. And you say something to the effect of, isn't this just like when you told me you were struggling with blah, 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 blah? Don't you think that this is what that is? That is like a big violation of trust. It's something that you don't do. And it's kind of gross for someone who claims to have been this person's friend and this person trusted that person with some really sensitive, private information about their struggle. And then to use that information to blast it out in a content cop and then use it to frame Ethan as though he's getting crazy again is pretty gross behavior.
The lengths that I've gone to work on myself and improve my mental condition, for him to throw that in my face, to characterize anything I'm doing.
Oh no, JD. Oh no. What did you do, JD? He was like the only good pope we had in my lifetime.
Doing as crashing out, that I need help, that I need to get some kind of treatment, is cruel and pathetic on a level I didn't think he would ever be possible of doing. One ridiculous point he keeps hammering on is that I'm hating on him, I'm harassing him.
I feel like human beings are capable of some of the worst behavior, and I'm not exempt from this. Everybody does it at some point in their lives. But I feel like human beings, there's the most risk of being a sort of a bad person, or how do I want to phrase this? Not a very articulate person. You are capable of some of the cruelest behavior when you're thoroughly convinced that you are morally in the right and another person is morally in the wrong. Does that make sense? People in your day-to-day lives or whatever that you interact with. I feel like one of the times where there's the most capacity to be cruel is when you're just 100% convinced that you have the moral high ground and the person you're speaking to is like a bad person, which is ironic because I talked about I talked about being a bad person or whatever. But I want to be more precise with my language here. It blinds you to your own kind of culpability. It blinds you to your own shortcomings. You sort of dismiss out of hand the idea that you could be cruel, or that maybe the things that you're doing or saying are cruel. You kind of dismiss it. You don't even give that a second thought because the person that you're directing your criticism of in your mind is so clearly in the wrong, you know? And I feel like that's what happens a lot with like the far lefties, the ones that are doing like crazy Palestinian advocacy that helps no one and turns people off from the cause and blah, 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 blah. You know, they have convinced themselves that people like Ethan and people like me, whatever, they have convinced themselves that we like want to see dead Palestinian kids. They take it to like a cartoonish caricature in their minds. Like people like Ethan are cartoonishly evil. He probably likes the fact that Palestinian kids are dying. Like they take it to that extreme. And when you have that sort of opinion of someone, you'll say like anything. You know, another example of this, but in a way that I think is kind of fitting, right? Like I think Donald Trump is cartoonishly evil. I think he's like a pure narcissist capable of harming so many people. So sometimes it's hard for me to give him like any charitability, right? But like this is obviously something else. Like I feel like politics is a separate thing. Like, politicians actually do real harm. I think you guys are understanding what I'm saying. Maybe I'm repeating myself a little bit here. Simply because he's following people on Twitter.
We're not gonna run to you.
What's that line in Captain America Civil War when Spidey and Steve Rogers have their little interaction? And Captain America asks Spidey, what did Iron Man say? And Spidey says that that you think you're right and that makes you dangerous. Something like that. Yeah.
To your defense, when, I don't know, we follow people, we be following. That's one f***ed up thing that you can say about Anissa and I is when we're on Twitter, we do be following.
I'm not upset, Ian, because you follow people. That is absurd. I'm mad because you are actively engaging with these people on social media, in DMs, while this harassment is happening, seemingly indifferent to it, silent on it.
And Dubbz later on in the video acknowledged like, you know, okay, are we kind of friends with Denims? Yeah. So even he knew that it went well beyond just following, but he framed it like, oh, he's mad because I'm following Denims. And then like 10 minutes later in the video, he's like, yeah, we're kind of friends outside of all this.
In a sense, I felt like you were more on.
Hilarious that Mike didn't get invited to this thing, by the way. It's incredible. So funny. Did he comment on that yet? He's in LA. He's in Los Angeles. Mike is in Los Angeles, I think. I could be wrong. The other thing too about Mike, bro, it's, God, I can't get over it. I got to stop talking about that guy, bro. Not good for my sanity. I just can't get over it. Like he's been lying to his audience about this bet that we never made. And he posts these as receipts. Like he posted something like late March. I didn't see it because I haven't blocked, but it popped up on my feed somehow. And he posted something in late March. He's like, this creator owes me $1,500 because we made 2 separate bets. He needs to pay up. And all of his idiot, insane, psychopathic, probably really ugly fans, no disrespect, they show up in my mentions. I'm sorry, if you're not attractive, I'm just saying, like, if you're watching a Mike stream, and then they show up in my replies saying like, when are you gonna pay Mike? Pay up, buddy. And then in that post, he posted these tweets as receipts. And both of these images are us disagreeing on the terms of the bet. Those are his receipts. It's us disagreeing on the terms of the bet. And he's lying, and his audience are like, oh my God, what a f***ing lib loser. When is he going to pay that money? It's so weird. A 40-year-old man lying about this stuff for clout on the internet is so strange. Like, that is so pathetic. That is so pathetic. That is so pathetic. If I was ever reduced to that level, I would expect you guys to abandon me in droves and just be like, I'm not watching this streamer. He's weird. Why would you lie about that?
Our silence means something. It means that we would.
No, I would not do the same. I don't lie. I don't lie. I do not lie. I actually think that it's pretty important to tell the truth, to endeavor to be truthful in all things that you do. And if you get something wrong, acknowledge it, etc., etc. I don't lie about this stuff. When you say I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, I'm saying you do the same. I don't lie. I'm not a liar. I don't make stuff up like that because I want to get attention from random people on the internet. Don't let me get one guy, chat. Don't let me do it. Don't let me do it.
Would like to pause this relationship until you figure your shit out.
Our silence means something. That's exactly what we felt. Wow,
Nothing
it's
I
almost
do
like we were
is
right about you.
performative.
There's something that I've never talked about publicly, but around the same time, we received 2 human skulls in the mail at our home, which led us to having a very pleasant interview with the FBI. Things have progressed well past the point of that's just what the internet.
Okay. Okay. And tell me, listen, tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't watch hardly any Denim's content or Mike from PA or Hasan, or, you know, every once in a while a video becomes super topical and I'll react to stuff. But at any point throughout this entire escalation of the rift between Hasan and Ethan, and then all of a sudden that exploding into sort of like a larger rift between Ethan and all of these like leftist content creators, have these creators at any point, as their audiences escalated it to the point, I keep bringing this up because it's just the most deranged thing that happened, but like once it escalated to the point where members of certain people's audiences were making animated cartoons of Hila killing Palestinian kids, did any of these creators at any point speak up and say, look, I don't agree with Ethan's politics, I don't agree with his takes on Israel, but this is going too far and it needs to stop. And if I see anybody, if me or my mods see anybody doing actual harassment towards Ethan and his wife, we're going to do bans. Like, this can't be accepted in our communities. That to me is like the bare minimum that a content creator should do in that spot. If they see their audience, if they see it escalating to that level, and especially if it's escalating to a level where like DPS are being called and human skulls are being mailed to their homes. I don't care how much you disagree with someone. You say Hasan was doing that, I'll take you at your word, okay? When I remember watching a video of Hasan and Ethan arguing, and Hasan was saying basically his audience was too big to do proper moderation. Do you remember that video? Because I do. That's what I saw. You know, I think every content creator has that responsibility. Every single one. If I found out that you guys were brigading people or harassing people, even if it was someone that I didn't like, I would certainly take action. I would step in and moderate that. I think that's especially big content creators. They say, well, it's too big to really moderate. That I feel like the bigger the audience is, the more necessary it becomes to effectively moderate. If you don't do that, then it feels like a silent sort of approval of what's happening.
It does. Ian had a recent revelation. He's transcended into a new person. He's achieved nirvana and discovered empathy at age 32.
I think only in these past couple of years have I gained the ability empathy, and I'm very ashamed to admit that. It sounds really pathetic to say at the age of 32 I've acquired empathy, but I have, and I've realized it because I just like can't help myself. But
okay, wait, is that a stretch?
32 I've acquired empathy, but I have, and I've realized it because
This is a stretch. I mean, it's very like, but it kind of feels like a stretch. What is the context of this? Samurai blade. Dude, my Google search rip my algorithm. Samurai, is it a samurai sword? Samurai sword. I found there's always a Reddit post for it. Why does Ichigo have a swastika on sword during Bankai? The symbol is a symbol of peace and prosperity used by Hindus and Buddhists. Okay, that's absolutely true. I do know that to be true. It was a history class I was taking in college. And I remember my professor at the time talking about how he had students that went to India and came back and they were like, there's swastikas everywhere. And the professor had to explain that that was like a symbol of peace for what, thousands of years or whatever before Hitler appropriated it. I guess, I don't know. It's really unfortunate in this context. I don't think there are bad intentions or whatever. That's really unfortunate, I think, for iDubbbz. In the context of like all of this. Ogre Boy, are you going to be doing the human skull trutherism? This is what Ogre Boy just linked to us. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Are you saying it was like a Reichstag fire? Is this a false flag? Is that what's going on? Skullgate, a thread. Since Ethan will likely not update until he's next live. Here we go. Ethan posts these photos on IG saying he was sent to him as intimidation or harassment. The exact same one, same code and marking can be found on the Skulls Unlimited site. Okay, you are doing that. So he faked it, right? That's where you're going. I don't know if she turned off comments or if she blocked me. A lot of these people blocked me. Yeah, here we go. They do not like me to the extent that they're aware of me. Like, could another example of this not be that someone from someone's audience went to that service and bought it themselves and sent it? How else do you get a human skull, by the way? You know, it's like, I'm thinking of John Goodman in The Big Lebowski. I can get you a toe. I can get you a toe by 12 p.m. Like, if I needed to get a human skull, I have no idea who the fuck I would go to for that. You call like museums, but then it's going to be like thousands of dollars. The green packaging here aligns with the shops, so the person didn't bother removing the tag. Strange. It happens at the same time an artist he collaborated with who collects skulls shows off a new skull shirt. I mean, I don't even know what the connection is there. Ethan's skull picture he was sent, the one that was but is now gone, listed in the shop. This should absolutely be fully investigated, seeing as you have large accounts accusing Hasan, Noah, and iDubbbz purposefully sending this as a way to threaten him. Is anybody making that specific accusation that Hasan himself sent the skull? I haven't seen, well, I mean, to be fair, I don't know. I just found out about the skull thing this morning or whatever. And finally, of course, if someone sent this to him as a threat, it's vile and it should be absolutely condemned. Hopefully the store and FBI will be able to track this. In the meantime, don't point fingers at people with no evidence to back it up. Sure seems like she's framing this like it was a false flag. The lengths that these people will jump to avoid reckoning with how unbelievably toxic their entire online space is. These people are fully delusional.
I just like can't help myself but like feel for other people's pain and suffering now. I'm still not perfect. I think that is, my empathy meter's only maybe like a quarter of the way filled up, potentially, but it's at least there.
In the spirit of his newfound enlightenment, he had this to say.
I have made some cruel, hurtful content, and I need to acknowledge that, and I'm really sorry that it's taken me this long to acknowledge it. The content I'm talking about specifically are content cop videos, and videos where I was just generally criticizing people for very lackluster reasons and, obviously didn't have any accountability online whatsoever on my end. I was morally grandstanding and acting as if I am any better than any of these people that I was making content cop videos on, and I'm not.
There's almost like a poetry here because because iDubbbz made a video being critical of Ethan, and then he's kind of like weaponized Ethan's openness about like mental health struggle against him in that video, and then you guys can see it, like Ethan's kind of doing the same thing here, except iDubbbz was getting vulnerable with his audience. He was getting vulnerable with like the world. Now Ethan is referencing this, so it's a little bit poetic here.
I'm a real human who makes mistakes, and I make a different set of mistakes than the people I was making videos on, but it doesn't matter. I don't think anyone deserves.
Just to like push back a little bit, on Ethan. I don't think we should mock anybody who's like, if it takes somebody until the age of 30 or 32 or 31 or whatever to develop empathy, then I think that we should, you know, I feel like we should always applaud that. Now, of course, like, what does that mean in the context of the new content cop? You know, then you can say like, well, how much empathy did you actually learn? But I don't feel like we should get on anybody's case for progressing as a human being. I don't care if they're 30, 40, 50, or 70. You know, if you make forward progress in being able to empathize with fellow human beings at any point in your life, then, you know, that's probably a good thing that needs to be applauded. But of course, how much of that it feels a bit invalidated now in the context of this content cop, you know, that's another question.
Level of cruelty or hate. It's also indoctrinated a lot of people into thinking that this is an okay way to behave, and it's not.
What happened? Am I so uniquely evil that you're willing to abandon your newfound principles after what, less than a year? What is it that I've done, Ian, that makes me more detestable than any of the other people that you've content copped? And for what did you do this? To revitalize your dying career? This entire video reeks of desperation, of being thrown together, and poorly researched. I don't really even understand why they did this, and I can't imagine that it's going to be worth it. Thanks for the 8 years of friendship.
We watched the entire content cop, and I'm asking myself, what were the specific, like, there were vague accusations that iDubbbz made. Ethan is crashing out, and, you know, he's spending too much time online, and he's letting the negativity get to his head. And there was like general, but what were the specific things that iDubbbz said in terms of his grievances? Like in terms of his criticisms of Ethan, what were the specific, because I've been saying it the whole time, this whole thing started because Ethan got really freaked out seeing not small leftist content creators praise Hamas and say that October 7th was a legitimate form of resistance. And he didn't affirm that Israel should dissolve itself and do this like one state full right of return bullshit that these guys push, whatever. And, you know, he basically was saying that like Israeli civilians are not valid military targets, and he doesn't believe in a one state solution. That's like how the whole thing started. I don't know if I remember iDubbbz saying like having any kind of factual disagreement with Ethan about like his commentary on the conflict. You know, that whole group's reason for going after Ethan is that he disagreed slightly with Hassan. It's not even real. It's not, I mean, it's not a slight disagreement, to be honest with you, but pretty big one. Like one state versus two state is pretty big one. But I would love for iDubbbz to say like, this is how you talk about like Palestinians and the conflict in a way that I think bad. But he didn't really even do that. I feel like he deferred to Hassan. He was just like, Hassan's really educated, and you know, Hassan has really good takes, and if only he just listened to Hassan, he would have better takes or whatever. But I don't know if he articulated like, here's what I think you said that was like wrong. I had people that I followed that I had thought were like level-headed people. They're leftists, you know, and I ended up like mutually following a lot of leftists during 2020 because I was a big avid Bernie supporter, and slowly but surely I've seen a lot of these accounts that I got along with just fine. I didn't think I'd like bet. Maybe I was blind to it before, and I got this one person I won't say who it is, but like this one person, he's been arguing with me, they've been arguing with me, and they're claiming that Ethan is justifying like destroying every hospital in Gaza. There's a clip of Ethan talking about how Hamas has set up bases of operations in different hospitals in Gaza, which is something I think no serious person doubts that this happens. There's disagreement on how much it happens, but I feel like no serious person who analyzes this conflict and is informed like doubts that Hamas sets up military operations in hospitals. And so there was this one clip. I was like, can you give me an example of like Ethan being cavalier about Palestinians dying? Because I've seen dozens of clips of him talking about how what Israel is doing right now to Gaza is wrong and it's up and it's genocidal and blah, 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 blah. And the person linked a clip of Ethan talking about how Hamas set up like stuff in hospitals. And I'm like, what do you think what do you think he's saying with this? Like, what do you think that and the person's, the way they interpreted Ethan saying with that was that like every hospital is a valid military target and Israel would be justified in destroying all hospitals. But Ethan, to my knowledge, has never said this. He's never said this. And so they jump to these like crazy conclusions. And then of course, if you believed that, then you think you're right, right? Like if you actually believed that someone was rooting for Israel to destroy every hospital in Gaza, then you're capable of saying some really awful, heinous shit, and you feel justified in doing it because like, oh, him, he wants to like destroy all the hospitals in Gaza. But the point is like Ethan doesn't believe these crazy things that these people accuse him of believing. We'll see how far this goes on, man. I mean, like, I don't really know what to say, but I felt like that's a really fair thing for Ethan to point out, that it's kind of odd that iDubbbz did not even mention one time in that entire hour and 10-minute video that he had the CPS called to his house. How do you not mention that? Like the extent of iDubbbz mentioning was, oh, harassment is bad. Of course, harassment is bad. And then that was it. It's pretty incredible. Like that's crucial context. It's crucial context to leave out.